John Coleman.
Good day, everyone. I was asked a question in Nexus during the Nexus Sprint Planning event. Nexus Sprint Backlog is created. Are these Nexus Sprint Backlog items, including all of those Sprint Backlog items of each individual team? So let's just first of all have a quick look at Nexus. So in Scrum, there's if you've got one product, you've got one product backlog. And in this case, there's 4 teams, 1, 2, 3, 4, and there is a Nexus integration team. The Nexus integration team will have representatives from the individual Scrum teams, usually developers, people actually doing the work. And there'll be one Scrum Master, and the product owner will be in the Nexus integration team. And they've got 2 jobs, really. The first job is how can we reduce the dependencies between these teams here. And the second job that they have is, can we deliver that increment at the end of the sprint? And it needs to be an integrated increment between the teams. It can't be this team have done their bit, they've done their bit, they've done their bit. It's not all kind of working together. Their second accountability is to make sure that we do get what I call a slice of cake at the end of a sprint. Now, a lot of you are familiar with a normal sprint backlog. So a normal sprint backlog would have, say, you got a sprint goal across the top, and then you might have a number of product backlog items. Let's say there's 4 product backlog items in the sprint, and this is the forecast. So these are the items that the team is going to deliver during the sprint, and it could be as well that maybe only some of these items are actually for the sprint goal. So maybe the red items here are the ones that help us deliver the sprint goal, and there's an extra one that isn't necessarily for the sprint goal. What tends to happen is, what I see in a lot of sprint backlogs, Scrum boards, they kind of have a swim lane for each product backlog item, and then they might have some columns, then maybe something like to do, doing, done, something like that. And they could have columns like this, and then they have individual items that are contributing towards that. So at the start of a sprint, all of these tasks would be in the to-do column, but then say during the sprint, some of them go into doing, and there might even be some of them done, and maybe there's nothing ready on the last one. So a normal sprint backlog would typically look like this. You don't have to do task breakdown, you might do some other way, but that's the most popular approach. So in the question it said, in Nexus, during the Nexus Sprint Planning event, the Nexus Sprint Backlog is created. Are all these Sprint Backlog items, including all of those Sprint Backlog items in each individual team? So it depends what you mean by Sprint Backlog item. And I don't like the expression Sprint Backlog item, because what does it mean? Does it mean the product backlog item that came in, or does it mean the subtasks that came in? Do you know what I mean? It's for me, it's a bit confusing. I like to refer to these items here, the forecast, still as product backlog items, in the same way that even though I'm living in England, I'm still Irish. So even though I've moved from Ireland, I'm still here, I'm still Irish. So the product backlog items are still called product backlog items in the sprint backlog. So when the Nexus integration team is at the start of Nexus Sprint Planning, what might happen is maybe team 1 says, we think we can do these ones, and maybe team 2 says maybe we can do this one, and then maybe team 3 says, well, actually, tactically, we think we can do this one, and maybe I'll keep it at that. But you could also have you could have all of them been selected really. So let's say the team actually picked all these items for the sprint. In the Nexus Sprint Backlog, what we do is we visualize the product backlog items during the sprint across all of the teams. So you would tend to have a grid that would not be showing the items in between them, but just the items themselves. So some kind of a grid where you basically very similar, I guess, to what you'd have in a normal sprint backlog to an extent, in that you might have something like to do, doing, done, or something. But you might also have a blocked column. Now, this is a bit controversial because I'm kind of a Kanban guy as well, aren't I? So why am I talking about having a blocked column? I should have had selected in there as well, but just forgive me for leaving that out. So in a normal Kanban board, for example, this isn't a Kanban board, but in a Kanban board, we tend not to like blocked columns. That's usually about items that have already started. So when an item has already started, having a blocked column it basically loses a signal about where the item is blocked. So if you put something into a blocked column and there's 3 in progress columns, where did it actually get blocked? And we mightn't actually know. And the other thing about a blocked column for something that has already started is you're kind of admitting that things are really terrible around here and so bad that we actually made a blocked column. It's actually part of our process, kind of thing. So that can be annoying as well. But actually, I don't have a problem with a blocked column before the work has even started, because what this is saying here is I can't even start this thing. And the reason it might not be able to start is because maybe, for example, the blue item here, on the blue items, let's say there's 2 of them. Maybe they can start, but maybe this red item here can't start because of a dependency on another item. And so normally what they do on a Nexus Sprint Backlog or on a dependency board is you'd show some kind of direction arrow showing, what's depending on what kind of thing. But in this case, that wouldn't be the case because this has already got in progress. But if there was some other item in there, let's say if you had a green item, for example, what you could do there is normally you'd show the number and all that kind of stuff. But essentially, you might be saying, well, this one can't start because, it's depending on this one, and this one can't start because maybe it's depending on this other one as well. And so essentially, the Nexus Sprint Backlog will be the composite of all the product backlog items in the sprint, not the entire product backlog, all the product backlog items in the sprint. And it will be showing the dependencies between the items as well. So even the ones that are, you might even have something that's in progress, for example. So this one here, this one maybe is a dependency actually for another item that's maybe over here. So we're trying to get this one out of the way first, kind of thing. And there's a nice way of visualizing that. Scrum Drawing of a lovely paper on cross-team refinement. Looking up cross-team refinement in Nexus. Really, really nice paper. And so in answer to the question, in Nexus, during Nexus Sprint planning, a Nexus Sprint Backlog is created. Are these Nexus Sprint Backlog items, including all of those Sprint Backlog items of each individual team? I would say they include all of the product backlog items, but not necessarily anything else. This is really just about having transparency about the dependencies between the items. I personally would show items that don't have dependencies as well on this board. So we've an idea. Well, you can do that on the dependency board now, but I would even do it on the Nexus Sprint Backlog, because every day this team has a thing called Nexus Daily Scrum. And what they do in the Nexus Daily Scrum is they look at what's going on. There's also, by the way, a Nexus Sprint Goal. Nexus Sprint Goal here. Just like there's a sprint goal in a normal sprint backlog, there's a Nexus Sprint Goal, kind of a collective sprint goal. And so in the Nexus Daily Scrum, what the team does is they're looking at what are the issues towards delivering that Nexus Sprint Goal. Are there any kind of dependency issues across the teams and so on? And what do we need to do to try and help get that slice of cake by the end of the sprint? I hope you found that useful. Don't forget that this is for Agile with Ukraine. So agilewithukraine.com. If you liked this, or if you're watching the recording, please make a donation. And it's for life-saving equipment, humanitarian help, and medical help. Okay, see you back here again tomorrow on April Fool's Day. Have a great day.